that feeling when you first drop your child off at nursery, that big breath you take.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive moment of trust, isn't it? Handing them over.
It really is. And you just expect, that they'll be completely safe, looked after.
That trust is, well, it's everything. And it's why having really solid, up-to-date standards for early years settings is just so crucial.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to getting properly informed. Our mission is to wade through the government docs and pull out the essentials for you.
Yep.
We're focusing on the UK government's upcoming changes to the early years foundation stage, the EYFS framework, specifically looking at safeguarding, pediatric first aid, and something brand new, a whole section on safe eating.
And these changes are locked in now, coming into effect from September 1st, 2025. Straight from the horse's mouth, really. A detailed government consultation response from October 2024, plus the updated guidance itself. This wasn't just dreamed up. It came from a lot of back and forth with professionals, parents, everyone involved across England.
And it's happening just as childcare is expanding massively, isn't it? With the 15 hours for 9-month-olds, 30 hours coming soon.
Exactly. That's the big picture. This huge expansion is happening, and these reforms are basically the government saying, okay, as we grow, we need to seriously double down on quality and safety. It's a direct response.
So the aim is to kind of lock in the best practices that many places are already doing. Make it standard.
Precisely. Formalize the good stuff. Make sure everyone, every educator, has the latest knowledge and the support they need to provide the absolute safest care, raising the bar consistently.
Okay, so it wasn't just a top-down decision then. There was this consultation process you mentioned.
Oh, yes, definitely a process. The DFE, the Department for Education, ran a consultation between April and June 2024, and they got a huge response, like 1,370 submissions.
Oh.
Yeah, and from all sorts of people. Nearly half were early years managers, quite a few childminders, local authorities, primary teachers, and importantly, almost 80 parents and carers, too.
That's a good mix. Was there general agreement or lots of debate?
Well, what's interesting is the level of consensus. Overwhelmingly, people felt these changes would make children safer and, bring the rules in line with what good practice already looks like.
Okay.
The government's pressing ahead with all the safeguarding proposals they consulted on. Just a few small wording changes for clarity. Plus, they've added new bits on whistleblowing and making sure references are properly checked.
Right. References, we'll probably touch on that. But let's start with the big news section, safer eating. This feels really significant.
It absolutely is, because mealtimes, snack times, they seem ordinary, but for young kids, they're actually high-risk moments. Narrower airways mean choking is a much bigger danger. And allergies, well, they can flare up fast.
So what's the absolute headline change here for managing that risk?
Okay, the biggest shift, the one everyone needs to know for September 2025, is this rule. Whilst children are eating, there should always be a member of staff in the room with a valid pediatric first aid certificate.
Always. In the room with a PFA certificate.
Yes, it's embedding that emergency readiness right there during the meal. It basically says, we expect choking might happen and we need someone qualified right there instantly.
That's a major step up. What about managing allergies and diets day to day?
Well, providers now have to get all the dietary info requirements, preferences, allergies, intolerances before a child actually starts. No waiting until day one. And crucially, someone specific has to be designated to check the meals match the child's needs. Every time.
And allergies aren't always obvious from the start, are they? They can pop up later.
Exactly right. Which is why the rules stress ongoing chats with parents and maybe health professionals to keep those allergy action plans up to date. It's not a one-off thing. Allergies can develop.
Makes sense. And for the really little ones, starting solids, the weaning stage.
Yeah, the guidance says providers must discuss the child's weaning stage with parents. And the food prep has to match the child's individual development, not just their age group. It's about tailoring it properly.
Now, choking prevention. I know parents worry endlessly about cutting things up right. Does the guidance give staff concrete examples?
It does, and that's really helpful. It gets quite specific. Things like small round foods, grapes, cherry tomatoes, strawberries need cutting lengthways, then into quarters.
Quarters, not just halves.
Quarters, especially for younger ones. And hard stuff like raw apple or carrot. Slice it thinly, don't give small chunks. And for babies, ideally soften it, take skins off.
Are there foods that are just a definite no?
Yes, a clear list for under 5s. Whole nuts and seeds, obviously.
Hmm.
Popcorn, marshmallows, jelly cubes straight from the packet, hard sweets, even slush ice drinks are out.
Slushies. Why?
Apparently due to the glycerol content in some of them. And if settings do offer sausages, they must be cut into thin strips, thins off. Oh, and raisins are now on the avoid list for under 12 months.
Wow, okay. Raisins too? What about drinks? Juice?
Okay, the guidance is pretty strict here. Only fresh tap water and plain milk are recommended. No fruit juice, no smoothies, no squash, no fizzy drinks, not even flavored milk. It's all about cutting sugar and protecting teeth.
Right.
And also, rice drinks are not advised for under fives because of potential arsenic levels.
Okay, so really back to basics on drinks. Water and milk. And how does supervision work during these mealtimes?
So kids must be seated safely high chair or a suitable low chair, and never ever left alone while eating. But the guidance also recommends that staff should try to sit facing the children.
Facing them. Why is that?
Well, it means you can spot silent choking much faster or an allergic reaction starting. Plus, it helps stop little ones sharing food, which is a big risk with allergy.
Of course. And if something does happen, a choking incident.
It must be recorded if intervention was needed. Parents must be told. And settings need to review these records regularly, look for patterns, see if they need to change anything. It's about learning and improving.
It really does sound like a much more consistent, robust approach to food safety across the board. That's got to be reassuring for parents.
Definitely. It provides that baseline everywhere.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Pediatric first aid again, but this time for students and trainees. Sounds minor, but it's important.
It is, yeah. Because previously it was just sort of recommended that students on long placements or volunteers over 17, apprentices over 16, should have PFA if they were counted in the staff ratios.
Right, sure.
Now it's a must. They can only be counted in the ratios if they hold a current valid PFA certificate. Full stop.
So more qualified people on the floor, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
which has to be good for safety, quicker responses.
Absolutely. That's the core aim.
But I guess for providers, especially smaller ones, this might mean extra costs, maybe make recruitment trickier.
Yeah, those concerns did come up in the consultation, the cost of training, potential barriers, but the government's view is that the safety benefit outweighed those concerns, so they're going ahead with it.
And, speaking of training, with this new mealtime rule and this requirement for trainees, there's going to be a big need for PFA courses.
Huge demand, yeah.
This is where organizations like Paul Kidney Training, working with the charity Bolton Under Fives Forum, are actually stepping in. We heard they've specifically added extra pediatric first aid courses for July, August, and September 2025, just to help settings manage this increase.
That's really practical support. Good to hear.
Yeah, so if you're running a setting and need to get staff trained up or refreshed, you can contact Deborah at Bolton Under Fives Forum about those extra courses.
And on choosing training providers generally, the updated guidance clarifies it's the setting's responsibility to pick someone competent. It does helpfully note that providers linked to trade bodies, voluntary aid societies, or AFACOL are fully regulated. Gives a bit of a steer.
Okay, good to know. Right, next up, safeguarding training itself. How often staff need refreshing on that? What's the change?
So, the main change is frequency. Safeguarding training for everyone, practitioners, childminders, assistants, must now be renewed every 2 years. It used to be 3.
2 years now. And what about those yearly top-ups people used to talk about?
Well, the annual refresher was previously a should, now it's a may. So a bit more flexibility there for settings, but the core mandatory training is more frequent.
Why the change? Faster updates needed.
It seems to be about keeping knowledge fresher, strengthening safety, but also trying to balance the admin load on providers, which was a point raised in the consultation. They've also added a new annex outlining exactly what must be covered in safeguarding training, types of abuse, signs, procedures, legal stuff, much clearer.
And anything new for the designated safeguarding lead, the DSL?
Yes, a really important one. DSL training must now specifically cover internet safety. That came through strongly in the feedback, reflecting, the world we live in now.
Makes total sense.
And policies also need to spell out how the training is delivered and how staff are actually supported to use what they've learned. It's not just ticking a box, it's about embedding the practice.
Okay, let's quickly cover some of the other key reforms. There were quite a few smaller, but still important tweaks, wasn't there?
Yes, several important ones. Safer recruitment first getting references. The big change is you must get a reference before the person starts work.
For day one.
Before day one, and clear guidance on what makes a valid reference, like not from family, checking their most recent job. And safeguarding policies need to cover procedures for new recruits specifically.
Right. What about if a child is off nursery or school unexpectedly?
New rules there too. Settings have to follow up unexplained or long absences promptly. They need to look for patterns, and if they're worried, refer to social care or the police. Plus, they need an attendance policy shared with parents.
Oh, okay.
And they're now expected to try and get more than 2 emergency contacts if possible. Gives a bit more backup.
And that term lead practitioners is changing officially.
Yes, it's now officially designated Safeguarding Lead, or DSL. Just aligns it with schools and makes it clearer, less ambiguity.
What about things like nappy changing or toilet trips?
Yeah.
Balancing privacy and safety.
Yeah, the framework now explicitly says providers need to balance a child's privacy with the need for safeguarding during those times. So for a lone childminder, maybe using a privacy screen, that kind of thing, being mindful of dignity.
Got it. And finally, whistleblowing for staff raising concerns.
Really crucial one.
No.
Settings must have clear whistleblowing procedures now. Staff need to know how to raise concerns about poor or unsafe practice, feel confident doing it, and know about external routes like the NFPCC or Ofsted if they need them. It empowers staff to speak up.
This is a really thorough overhaul covering so many areas. But thinking back to the consultation, providers must have raised some practical worries. Cost, workload.
Well, absolutely. Those points came up, concerns about the financial side, the extra work involved, and potentially making recruitment or keeping staff even harder. These are genuine pressures on the sector.
And how is the government responding to that? Just pushing ahead?
Well, the DFE says it recognizes how dedicated the sector is, and they're committed to supporting providers to understand and implement the changes. The underlying message is that ensuring the highest safety and quality is the priority, while acknowledging the hard work already being done.
So, wrapping up then. These EYFS reforms, particularly around safer eating, the PFA rules, the safeguarding updates, it feels like a really significant step up, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about taking good practice, formalizing it, and making sure it's the standard everywhere in the UK, elevating the baseline.
And the reason behind it all, fundamentally, is giving parents more confidence, making sure children have the safest possible start, especially as more kids access early years education.
Exactly. Building a stronger safety net as the system grows.
It makes you think, though. As our early years system keeps expanding and changing like this, these reforms show that safety isn't just a fixed thing, is it? It's constantly evolving, hopefully improving.
Yeah.
What does that ongoing evolution tell us about how we, as a society, value and invest in those really early years?
That's a deep question. It certainly highlights how foundational that early safety and care really is, our collective responsibility.
Definitely food for thought. And just one final reminder, as you're processing all these updates, if you're involved in early years setting here in the UK and need that pediatric first aid training to meet the new requirements, Paul Kenny Training, working with the Cherry Bolton Under 5s Forum, has put on extra courses for July, August, and September 2025.
Good practical help there.
Yeah, you can reach out to Deborah at Bolton Under 5s Forum to find out more about those.